Okay. Rabbi Akiva, his life and legacy.
Awesome.
No advertisement, but there's a great book. Should be floating around the dorm.
Uh-huh.
They took it from my house, and I don't think they gave it back. So I know it's in the dorm somewhere.
Hopefully.
And it's very recommended. It's like weaves all the different sources. What I'm doing. Yeah, he wrote a lot. It's sort of what I'm doing in this class, but with a lot more professional and literary skills, and makes it a really, really informative and inspiring and insightful read. So
You made
that's
that
that's
book,
my it's Marcus Lehman.
I don't I know.
Finish
You,
writer.
are
Okay.
you his boss?
That guy's everyone's boss.
I don't know. He was writing in the late 1800s.
He's really good.
Okay.
That book is really good.
So Rabbi Akiva, when did he live? What I did is a lot of Hebrew sources to challenge everybody a little bit, but I'm going to say the English. He was one of the greatest Tanoim of all the generations. He was mainly in the third generation of the Tanoim. When I say Tanoim here, I'm starting from Hillel and Shammai, because before them was more like the Zugais. Remember we did the history
Yeah.
eras. His time when he was active as a leader, his leadership was mainly between the two big wars. The Korban of the second Beis Hamikdash, which was what year? When was the second Beis Hamikdash destroyed?
Oh,
Around the year 70.
33? No.
And Beitar, which was around 60 years later. That's when he was mainly active. As a matter of fact, he was killed shortly after this war, connection with this uprising. Rabbi Akiva was killed. Okay. There's the tradition that he lived 120 years. Rabbi Akiva lived 120 years. And this is what I told you. I mentioned this a few times already. But the Seder Adara says that there's an opinion that he was born Gimel Alafim Tafshin Samach, which is, what is that? One.
One, the year one.
The year one. The Neda Gimel Tadad 120, the year 120.
So why?
So everybody's counting.
2002.
Everybody's counting to this.
Rabbi Akiva's.
To this. Yeah, this event, because
Because
it's been disproved already by all historians. Acknowledge that it's a little off the Christian counting. The founder of Christianity must have been a few years before the year one, because there's a story of him with, if it's based on a few people that they made the stories out of, but they say he was a baby in the time of King Herod, and that was a few years. His reign ended a few years before the year one. Now, according to all the ways of counting it, so we're really counting to Rabbi Akiva, I guess, everybody. So have that in mind. Okay. A little bit about his greatness.
When you said?
What?
By the third one he passed away? No, he
No.
lived through the organ. Oh, he lived through it. Oh, yeah. Beitar.
Yeah, his main leadership was between the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash, and then around 6 decades later was another uprising, famous revolt at Bar Kokhba, which Rabbi Akiva was involved in, and in connection with that, he sort of was killed.
Because he was
Following that.
for a long time. By the Romans.
And then afterwards, there was a lot of persecution, and then he was arrested and imprisoned and killed, and we'll get to that if we
They
have
hung him up.
time today.
That's spoiled.
I'll remind everyone again that we're being recorded, and it's just, especially it's on Abbas Yisrael. Try to, unless it's a very important thing, because then they're gonna have to edit out a lot. It takes a lot of time. So, but I do want to hear all your comments after. Please tell me them all after. Okay, back to the thing. So the next thing, some interesting phrases that some of the rabbis said about it. Rabbi Daisa ben Harkin said about Rabbi Akiva, "You are Rabbi Akiva." When he met him, he's like, "That you are Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef? Shimcha hoylech misayfa olam v'ad sayfa." That your name goes from one end of the world to the other. This is before social media. This is a big deal. This is not common. That everyone, like he was like, I put over here top 5. If you had to,
He's like you.
if you had to pick 5, you have to pick 5 top Jews, like the greatest Jewish leaders in history. Rabbi Akiva would definitely be a serious candidate. And I'm talking about from Moshe Rabbeinu and Rambam and the Avraham Avinu. Like you would have to put in the top leaders. Rabbi Akiva would definitely be one of the candidates for top 5 in the greatest, most influential leaders. Not that it's a good activity to even try to compare the great Jewish leaders. Okay, In Menachos it says that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu the special vision that Moshe Rabbeinu had, or some kind of experience, that he told Moshe Rabbeinu, Adam echad yeshe asim liyos b'soif kamadonos. In many generations, going to be a person. His name is Akiva ben Yosef, and he's going to expound on every one of the crowns of the letters of the Torah, mounds and mounds of laws. He's going to derive. The full story is in Menachos that Moshe Rabbeinu he was in heaven for 40 days. So one of the adventures he had there was he saw Hashem. I don't know what it looked like exactly, the scene. He wasn't sitting by the table and sewing things, but it says he saw Hashem adding crowns to the top of the letters. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, what's this for? Why is this necessary? And he told him, there's going to be a Jew one day in the future, in many generations, and he's going to expound from every one of these crowns, many mounds and mounds of piles and piles of laws. So we know you know what Moshe Rabbeinu's response was, of course. So why are you giving the Torah through me, right? He has such a great Jewish soul like Rabbi Akiva. Okay. In the Medrash Rabbah it says straight out that there was things that Moshe Rabbeinu was never revealed and was revealed to Rabbi Akiva. Okay, his ancestry. Who knows what this picture is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Rambam writes in his intro that Akiva's father Yosef was a convert, and it says in the Gemara Brachos, page 27b, that the descendants of Sisera, the wicked king in Judges who was persecuting the Jews and was eventually killed in this story, which by Yael, the woman, the whole war. So we learn. It says he had a descendant who learned Torah in Bnei Brak. It says, who is that? Rabbi Akiva, who we'll soon see had a yeshiva in Bnei Brak.
Rabbi, this woman nailed a head.
Yeah, a peg into his head to make sure he's dead and he stays dead.
That's crazy.
Okay, his humble origins.
At 40 years.
So until the age of 40, it says in some sources he learned zilch, nothing. He didn't even know the shape of the letters. So that's why this is one of the reasons why he's everybody's hero, especially late starters, late boomers. He mamish was. It says even worse actually. He was against the rabbis. It's a story that he once buried a body, but he carried the body to like the cemetery to bury it. He found a dead body and no one was taken care of. And they told him that he did something wrong because they want to tell him that you have the right. There's a special law that was instituted that if there's a body there's no one taking care of, you can bury it around there. And you don't have to take it to the cemetery. There's like permission from Yeshua when he entered the land. It was one of the enactments he made. So they were trying probably to tell him that, but they weren't sensitive apparently. But he didn't take it well. He took it as like they're criticizing him. He sweated so much to do a mitzvah that he tried to do. This happened before he was 40, and it says he would have, if you would have met the rabbis, he would have wanted to kick them, like hurt them. That's what he described before he went to yeshiva. Like he had wasn't just illiterate. He actually had an animosity towards like some rabbis. So how did it start? This I still think this should be made as some kind of movie, maybe a short one, but a good one.
I think we should make.
So he was a shepherd by a man named Kava Savua. Me'ashida Yerushalayim, one of the wealthiest people in Yerushalayim. In Gemara Gittin, when it talks about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash and the terrible infighting amongst the Jews, it says that originally there were 3 wealthy people who could support the whole Jerusalem with all the people that escaped there before the war, or the beginning of the war, for 21 years. One had enough oil, one had enough wool, one had enough grain, and one of the 3 was Rabbi Akiva boss, this Kava Savua, who he worked for as a shepherd. He was one of the 3 wealthy people at the time of the destruction of the temple. His daughter saw Rabbi Akiva. His daughter Rachel. She saw in him greatness. She detected a very, very lofty soul with great, great potential. And she told him, if you'll apply yourself to Torah, I'll consent to marry you. So he agreed and they got married. Again, she got married first. She showed him how much she really felt that he was destined for greatness. And her father was furious that his daughter married a lowly, ignoramus, illiterate shepherd, and he disowned them. He's made a vow, a very strong vow, that they will not derive any benefit from him. And he was super wealthy. Okay, Rabbi Akiva went and learned Torah. That was the deal. They got married, and shortly afterwards he went to learn Torah. It says after 12 years he came back with 12,000 students already. And he heard his wife telling the neighbor was like saying, look at you, you're like a widow, you have no, your husband's away so long. So she said that he overheard this, that if he would care what I want, I would want him to stay another 12 years. So he did. He went right back. The story goes, and we'll discuss that another time. It sounds very extreme. Doesn't say that there could be. She stopped a little bit before he went back, but the way it's written is that he didn't even stop in and say hi. He just went right back, exactly what she said, and he stayed another 12 years, and he ended up with 24,000 students. Finally, he came to town with 24,000 students. Now, meanwhile, his father-in-law is feeling terrible. He's going around from rabbi to rabbi, trying to annul his vow. But the way it works with vows is you can't just say, "Oh, it's canceled." You have to find an opening. You have to come and say, "If you would have known this and this, would you have done it? Would you have still said the vow?" And he has to answer honestly. It's between you and God. He was a firm Jew. So he went to all the rabbis and they said, could you know my vow? He wanted to help his daughter. She was starving. She was so poor. And they said, if you would have known how much she's suffering, now, would you have done it? He said, the truth is, yeah, I was so angry when I made the vow. I knew they would suffer. I wanted them to suffer. So he tried all different things. And every rabbi he went to would try to find something. If you would know this, if you would know this. He says, I knew, about that he was, but I didn't care. Because of this, I really meant it. And I made a really strong vow. So now he heard that this great rabbi is coming to town with 24,000 students. So he says, maybe this great teacher will find a way to open my vow, an opening to know my vow. So he comes out to greet him. He comes out to the great Rabbi Akiva, and he tells him the story, pours out his heart, doesn't recognize him. So Rabbi Akiva says, if you would know that he knew how to learn a lot of Torah, would you have made the vow, or that he had potential to become a great Torah scholar? So he said, of course not. If he even could learn one chapter, I would have never. If he had, I didn't think that was there. But if he could even one chapter, I would have not done it. So Rabbi Akiva said, "I'm your son-in-law," and the vows annulled. And we'll soon see. That's one of the ways how he became very wealthy. As you saw the subtitle of the class. So then the famous phrase comes from that incident as well. As he's coming with 24,000 students, there's a lot of people in the city, and they're greeting them, and then there's this disheveled woman. This has happened actually first, that his wife is trying to push through the crowd to say hi, to welcome him back, and she's like dressed in rags and everything, and the students try to stop her. Who's this like crazy lady trying to push through the crowd? Like they don't know it's his wife, who didn't see her for 24 years. So they tried to stop her. So he's like, Rabbi, let her alone. Shali v'shalachem shalahi, the famous word. What is everything that I attain spiritually, everything that you attain spiritually as my students, the credit of all of that goes to her. That's the famous word. Shali v'shalachem shalahi. It's all hers. All right. Then the Gemara in Ksubis, I believe, says, Minchis mili iyata Rabbi Akiva. From 6 things, Rabbi Akiva became wealthy. This was the subtitle of the class. Okay? 6 ways to become wealthy. Start taking notes. You ready? You're going to be a little disappointed. Okay, the first one was what we said before. That after this whole dramatic story, his father-in-law gave like half his wealth to them. He felt so bad and everything. So that was the first way. That was number one. So I guess what you have to do is pretend to be an Amara.
Marry a rich girl. Oh, sorry.
All right, I was gonna do.
Why the sugar daddy?
Okay. Number two. The second way he became wealthy is min ayola de sfinta,
Something about bullets.
from the aisle, the head of a ram of a boat. They used to have on the top of boats in those days, some superstitious sailors, for good luck, they thought, they would take a ram and put it like a ram's head, like carved out of something, wood or something. Zimnachada Enshev Akif Yama, and he found it. So I'll tell you the whole story. What happened is they prepared it for good luck, and people would fill it. Everyone would put some gold in it to really make the idol work. They would invest, and they all prepared their ram's head with gold, and they did, that was their ritual for good luck, because it was very dangerous to travel the seas in those days. So they prepared one time a ship prepared a whole thing, and they left by mistake. In their excitement, they left the ram's head full of all the gold and jewelry that was put in there on the beach, and they took off without it. And they came back. Rabbi Akiva found it, and he put it aside. When they came back looking for it, Rabbi Akiva said, "You're looking for something? Could you identify it?" And he returned it to them, and they were blown away by a person who could do this. And he farbrang with them properly. And after talking to him for a few minutes and realizing how he spoke and how he behaved, they said, "You know what? It's probably be better protection for us if we just donate it to this rabbi, and he'll pray for us, and instead of these charms, because he talked them about idol worship and these things, and he talked them out of it, and that's what he did. That's the second way how he became wealthy. So always make a kiddush Hashem. Next, number three, and from the Gavza. That's like a chest. Or it means it's not really a chest. It was a wooden log. Here's what happened. There was once another group. Once he invested a little money. He gave a few zuz, 4 zuz, to sailors who were traveling. He said, "Buy me some merchandise for some business. You're going to somewhere. I hear there's good merchant, a good market over there. Find me something to invest." He gave them 4 zuz. They didn't find anything, but they forgot about it there. And on the way back, they're like, "Oh no, we forgot to buy him something. Here, you know what? We'll give him this log of wood." They found it. They just found a piece of wood on the beach, and they told him, "This is what we got for you." And it turned out that it was actually also contained a treasure from a sunken ship. The Gemara says that that all the people had hidden their gold and valuables in a wood. They thought it would float, and when the ship was having a shipwreck, and it ended up floating away, and everything was lost. And that's what the sailors bought for Rabbi Akiva for his 4 zuz as an investment. They might have thought they were mocking him or something. They're like, we found you a piece of wood, that was all we got for you, but it ended up being full of gold. Okay.
Basically, have Hashem on your side.
Then the fourth way is from a matronisa. And the fifth way is from Turnus Rufus. And the sixth way is from Tia Bar Shalom. Wow. Okay. So Matani, let's do these stories. These are exciting stories. The Matronisa means a noble woman, like some rich Roman lady, Gentile woman. Once Rabbi Akiva needed money for his yeshiva. What else is new, right? Nothing new under the sun. He was collecting money for his yeshiva, and he needed to pay certain expenses. He asked this noble woman who was supportive. There were a lot of, in those times, some historians, I heard them say and write about, that there was so many converts amongst the Romans, because that was when paganism was sort of extinguished, the Gemara says. A lot of them were converting to Judaism. That's why there were so many Jews by the Churban, and until Christianity started, and they made it a lot easier. They said you could have whatever you like about Judaism without circumcision and the restrictions and the dietary restrictions and so on. And then it was a good business move, but that's for another time. Anyway, there were a lot of it's a lot of stories about that there were women who were they were favorably disposed to Judaism. Anyway, so she agreed to give it a big loan to Rabbi Akiva, and she said she wants a guarantor. The house was on a beach. It was like by the sea. So she said, I want your God and the sea to be my guarantor. Okay, and there was a deadline. It was supposed to be repaid within, let's say, 30 days or 60 days. When the time came, Rabbi Akiva was very sick. He got sick. He couldn't go to bring her the money to pay her. So she turns to God. She goes out to the porch, to the garden in front, to the beach in front of her house, and she says, do you know that Rabbi Akiva, he's sick and he can't pay me, but you're the guarantors, and he's supposed to pay me. If he can't pay me, he doesn't keep his obligations, so I go to the guarantors. And Hashem caused, it says, that a treasure chest came flying from the ocean. The wave came crashing in and landed right at her feet. Because what happened, the Gemara actually says, that Caesar's daughter in Rome went crazy and took a bunch of jewelry and put it in a chest and threw it into the ocean, and it came crashing quickly to pay this lady back. And then Rabbi Akiva came a few days later when he got better. He came with the money to pay, and she said, sorry, the guarantor already took care of it. So that's the story number 4. Number 5, this is even better. Tortoise Rufus, there's a lot of stories about the Talmud about some big, like Roman, higher up, nobleman, but it could be also the emperor, but a big philosopher, also a lot of debates with Rabbi Akiva. And he comes home one day in a bad mood, and his wife says, what's the long face? And he says, with a name like Tortoise Rufus, what do you expect, right? He said that Rabbi Akiva keeps besting him in their arguments, and it's public, and he makes a fool out of him, and it's like it's very embarrassing. Akiva would win and really wipe the floor with him. So she said, she is apparently a wise woman. She knew something, interesting woman. So she tells Rabbi Akiva. She tells her husband, you know what? Like Bilam said, the God of the Jews, their power comes from their purity and their holiness. He really doesn't like it when the Jews when they behave immorally. So give me permission to get Rabbi Akiva to sin. I'm a pretty woman. I could go get Rabbi Akiva to sin. And he said, go for it. And so she says the Gemara. It says she dressed up. What the Mefarshim should bring out the Gemara, the Ran and others that's recorded. So she comes, and Rashi also references it. Rashi references it on the Gemara. He said she comes, and as soon as Rabbi Akiva meets her, it says he spit, he cried, and he laughed. So she's like, wasn't expecting that reaction. So she said, what is that? What is that supposed to mean? So Rabbi Akiva said, I can explain to you 2 of them. And the third thing I cannot explain you now. So he said, the spit is because I see you're a beautiful person, but I just reflected on where you come from, where you're going, or no, where you come from, a future trap, and spit is disgusting. Your beauty, it's worthless. Then I reflected on where you're going, which is like maggots and worms, and that's such beauty is going to be lost. So I cried, and the smile I cannot tell you. Basically, they ended up having a whole conversation, and she was so blown away by his character and the way he was it was so ridiculous. Her whole idea, she realized. And she like her husband, she was also philosophically inclined, and she started having whole discussions with him. In the end, she became Jewish, and she eventually married Rabbi Akiva. That's why I laugh. That's why I laugh. In the end, I think her husband could have been the one who gave his life to stop a decree. They both, no, not that. Some say Torah Snufers, actually, no. This is the wife of Tunis Rufus. So some say Tunis Rufus is the one who actually killed him, but many argue against that. They say it must have been a different Tunis Rufus. It must have been more. It must have been a popular tongue twister name. And but that she ended up, and that's why he smiled, because he saw that they were destined to be married one day. And she's coming to seduce him, and really they're going to end up being married. Like we'll soon see. He was married a few times. And the sixth way, it gets even more. Believe it or not, this story even tops that. There was a person named Katia Bar Shalim.
What did that have to do with this wealth, though?
What?
What did
Oh, she was very wealthy.
Oh, okay.
That was the fifth source how he became wealthy.
We
And
figured
then
out all about the wealth.
there was another rich nobleman who the Romans were discussing the Jewish problem and their version of the final solution. And all of them were saying to fight and antagonize the Jews and persecute them and do all kinds of decrees. And this Ketir Bashalim was defending them. And he successfully defended him. He said that, that God, you can't really start with the Jews. Whoever tried is gonna be, end up regretting it, like, all the stories, and you're gonna be even if you do it partially succeed, it's not gonna be good for the Roman Emperor. He argued too good because the king didn't like it. The king said, okay, here's how it works. Because you're saying good points, I cannot argue with you. I cannot, reject them. So we're gonna have to go by what you said. We're not gonna do what we want to do with the Jews. But because you bested the king in the argument, you're gonna have to be buried alive. Right? That was the basic procedures. So they're taking him out to bury him alive. And there's a noblewoman there, it says, who said some interesting poetic line. She said, the ship was sailing, but you didn't even pay your tariff, which was the Gemara, I guess, code or some kind of code or expression that, like, you're giving your life for the Jewish people and you didn't even join them. Like, you might as well join the Jewish people. Like, become a Jew. It was a thing amongst the noblemen. They were all considering about joining Judaism. There was a lot of like fallout, like tension in politics. So apparently, he said he agreed, and he said as they started burying him, it says don't ask me to explain this, but it says he somehow bent over, maybe he was tied, and he gave himself somehow circumcised himself with his teeth as they were burying him alive. And then as they were getting over his head, he said, all my wealth goes to Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues. That's what he announced. But that's the sixth way.
And he died?
Yeah, he was buried alive.
What a loser.
All Kiddush Hashem.
Kiddush
Hashem, yeah, dude.
On record, that's gonna.
They put you on
That's
blast.
tired, though. They put you on, like, I knew. They put you on blast.
Okay.
Rabbi, was that easy to convert?
Well.
Yeah, dude.
What do you mean he circumcised himself with his teeth? Bro, but does that sound easy? It's not that it sounds easy. Like, he's like, I want to be Jewish.
We'll talk about it after. It's not so simple. He did what he could. He wanted to do something. Okay, his teachers. You might have heard of him. Menachem Ish Gamzu.
Oh yeah, he was a
He
big.
was from a place called Gamzu.
He's a really big.
And his cousin Rabbi Akiva was a student of his for 22 years.
He was a Gamzuji.
He also used to say this is for the good. But okay. He learned for 13 years by Rabbi Eliezer, it says in Yerushalmi Psachim. Also, Rabbi Yeshua was one of his main teachers, it says in Brachas, the end of Brachas. Then Rabbi Akiva became eventually like a chavrusa with Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. He started off as a student, and eventually became, it's called a Talmud Chaver. They saw that he was able to be their level. What?
Rabbi Eliezer's son of Rabbi Shimon?
Well, I don't know if it says the same concept that they became. It's a son. It's different. But here they said already, they treated him like a friend, like a fellow, like a.
No, I mean that's the same Rabbi Eliezer as Rabbi Shimon, like that's his son?
No, not at all. Because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was a student of Rabbi Akiva. We'll get to that soon.
Right, that's okay.
And then that would be his grandson. It wasn't his teacher for 13 years. Because
So
Rabbi Shimon was Rabbi Akiva's
Oh,
student.
right, Rabbi Shimon was Rabbi Akiva's.
Yeah, it's the opposite. And that's the next generation would be his son. It's a different Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Tarfon was another rabbi who was originally his teacher, and eventually they became like chavrusas, like they're brought together, debating things equals. And Rabbi Tarfon said about Rabbi Akiva, Kol HaPodesh Mima Mincha kepaydash min achai. Whoever separates himself from you, Rabbi Akiva, is like disassociating themselves, disconnecting themselves from life, from the source of life. That's what he had to say about Rabbi Akiva. Okay, his yeshiva was in Bnei Brak. It says in Sanhedrin. He had a great big yeshiva in Bnei Brak, which is now, there was no Tel Aviv then, but you see where it is from Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, Tel Aviv. So that's where it is, up a little north.
Can you go to it today? It doesn't exist anymore.
Bnei Brak is a big, big city.
No, can you go to the yeshiva?
I don't know if they have ruins of it. They have a lot of ruins everywhere there, but this is Bnei Brak now. Very, very, what they call Haredi city. I don't like labels, but
What else did I read?
and it says the Agada. In the Agada we mentioned that they were once having a seder in Bnei Brak. So it's just Rabbi mentioned in the notes. Maybe Rabbi Akiva was put at that point because it was his town. That's why he's listed earlier in the group, because he was like the Merid Asra of that city. Okay, his career. So first of all, he was part of the Sanhedrin in Yavne. He was one of the 4 that knew 70 languages, it says, as well.
He knew 70
Not everybody in the Sanhedrin, but they need to have a few.
Or not everybody had
Rabbi
to?
Akiva? No, not everyone. The Rambam said, but some of them have to know, so they could do things directly without relying on interpreters. That's crazy. It says Mordechai also was 400 years before. What?
And Yosef, right? But Yosef was taught like.
Yeah, Yosef was not by Sanhedrin. It was a special thing, but prior. Okay.
Yosef could also speak.
He was also, it's known he was, by the way, this is ruins of Yavne. This is things of Yavne. This is supposed to be some kind of image of Sanhedrin. But this is ruins of Yavne that they're digging up. And it's
That's
also
Rabbi
known,
Akiva, the biggest Jew in the middle.
no. This is Agabe. The Gabbai Tzedakah means it's known that he was very involved in collecting, like we had the story before, and distributing. He was very trustworthy, and he was apparently very good at it, with all this fundraising tricks that we mentioned before. Okay. It's also known for his Mitzayim. Remember I told you this story? I don't know if everyone was here. I'll say it briefly. That he once went like traveling around far away for different purposes, and he came to a city where they worship snakes.
Oh yeah, you told
And
me.
he told and he had got into this whole debate with the queen of the city, why they worship snakes, and they said it's based on the Torah. Because when Moshe Rabbeinu was by the burning bush, and he said God started communicating with him, he said, "Let me go closer and check this out." But then when God told him to throw the stick on the ground, and it turned into a snake, it says Moshe fled. So she said, "Isn't it clear that the snake is more powerful than the God of the creator God of the Jews?" So Akiva explained to her nicely that the opposite is the case, that the creator is no running away from. There's nothing, you could run away a few steps. It's not going to make any difference. But a snake is just a snake. You could just take a few steps and you'll be safe. And that's why Akiva stepped away from it. And it says the whole country, they updated their religion. He would teach them Sheva Mitzvahs, it says. Okay, who's his famous companions? We mentioned some of them before. That some of his teachers who became like Chavrusas, but there's also Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nudi. The most common peer rabbi that goes together with Rabbi Akiva is Rabbi Yishmael. You had that inside there, right? That's the most commonly found together.
And Baba Basra.
Yeah.
It was a good story. Rabbi might retell the snake story, Rabbi.
So there was he had 24,000 students, the famous morning that we do in the Sphere Saimers for these 24,000 students. But then it says there was 5 great students afterwards, that he started again after he lost all his students. And they were the famous ones, and we know their names. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yaisi, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, and Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. These were the 5 great students of his that were from the next time he started the yeshiva, and it says they were like a bottleneck, and like Judaism was almost lost, and they were able to be the leadership of the next generation. His popularity. Who wants to guess? How many times is he mentioned in the Mishnah? Take a guess.
Every single time.
84,000.
Higher, lower,
111.
higher.
613 times.
214 times.
143.
All right, 226. You got close enough. He's mentioned 226 in the Mishnah. How many times in the Gemara?
1,037.
770 times.
564.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Rabbi Yechanan is probably more.
Yeah. Rabbi Yochanan is a rabbi in the Gemara, and he taught all of them directly. All the students, everyone was his students. That's why he's mentioned the most.
So it's not fair.
But Rabbi, there are rabbis that are only mentioned once. So this is pretty serious.
Rabbi Gazinski's mentioned
Okay, his mysticism. He is famous for also being a master of the hidden levels of Torah, Kabbalah. It says that 4 entered the paradise. Rashi says, what does it mean they entered paradise, which is the origin of the word paradise, by the way? The mystical place, you know? Rashi says, Alul Rakia Yidei Shem. They actually went to the heavenly worlds using the names of God. That's how Rashi translates this story. 4 people did it. They went on this trip. Ben Azai, Ben Zoima, Acher, and Rabbi Akiva.
Acher.
Ben Azai hitzitzu meis. Ben Azai gazed, and his soul left him. He expired. Chalais nefesh, obviously. His soul couldn't, like Nadav Avihu, got too close, and his soul couldn't stay in the body. Ben Zoima hitzitz v'nifka. Ben Zoima, he gazed, and he went a little bit, how to say this nicely?
Crooked.
He wasn't himself anymore. He wasn't himself anymore.
Crazy.
It affected his mind. He couldn't relate to normal people, to regular people in the regular world after this experience. And they considered him awkward. And Acher kitzes benetias, which is he cut the sapling, the trees, the roots, which is a poetic metaphor for Yeshiva Torah Ohr. He became a heretic. He cut down the trees.
That's so sad.
Rabbi Akiva entered in peace, and he left in peace. He came back with shalom, with peace, wholesome. And the Rebbe would always point out it's because he entered properly into this. That's the key. That's why he was unharmed, and he only gained spiritually. It was an unbelievable, powerful experience. He knew how to enter. That's the key. You have to realize the danger of overdosing on the spirituality and realizing that Hashem's purpose is he wants you to be in this world, not to have such great feelings that you cannot stay in this world anymore. That should be a challenge a little bit. We have to have a little bit in that direction, but still they were holding, that the challenge was to stay in this world.
But why did that guy go off the derek? Why do you
For another class. It's for another class. Actually, it is asked, and it says really it was because he did some Goyish music and things when he was young. It gives answers. It does ask that.
I'm such a guy.
It says that he was a sensitive soul also, and there's a lot of
course unsensitive guy.
Ooh.
Rabbi, that's crazy.
That's
he did
now
Goyish music. He became a heretic.
Or Goyish wisdom. Reading Goyish books. It says something like that. Okay. Yeah.
Just
Hold it after the class. I want to hear after.
Just throw me off the cliff.
Okay. Didn't say that happened. It was a combination with this, so don't worry. You're good. You have to do that together with when you go to Paradise and you had the wrong rotten foundation without doing tshuva. Then it could be a problem. But I wouldn't worry if I were you.
You don't think I could reach Paradise?
No, I don't. I think you if you did anything like that,
That's so
either it's
sad.
not counted the same severe as him, or you probably did good tshuva, or it didn't affect you the same because your whole soul is much different. Also, it says even Rabbi Akiva was almost harmed. Look at this. Af Rabbi Akiva bikshu malachi asharis ladecha. They wanted to hurt him, like to push him. That would hurt him. Meaning, when Hashem said, "Leave him," he deserves to enjoy my glory. It's very poetic. It's a very mystical thing. Don't take any of this literal. But I just want to share a great story of Rabbi Akiva. So Sefer Habar here, one of the earliest Kabbalistic texts, is and Sefer Yetzirah. According to some opinions, it's attributed to Rabbi Akiva, or part of it, or all of it.
Here in your house?
Yes, of course.
Here.
We have one here translated by Aryeh Kaplan. Okay.
Didn't there people who were
A
translating
part about his prayer. It says this is how the Talmud describes Rabbi Akiva's davening. When he would be davening on his own, even. I guess the minyan finished already, and he was still going. Adam manicha b'zavizu, maitze b'zaviz acheres. You would pass by once, you would see him in one corner, and you would come by later, you'd see him in the other corner. How did that happen? Because he was basically prostrating himself, falling on the floor in prayer, and I don't know if it was rolling on the floor, but it was like literally like bowing and prostrating himself. He would end up across the room in this lost in his prayer. That's what it describes. So tomorrow, I don't please everybody don't all make Rabbi Stoffer crazy by rolling on the floor during davening. You should call me and blame it on his
How
class.
could he do that though? His phone would fall off, no?
He didn't know how to do it.
He was older for him.
How did the
I'm Amish couldn't.
how did the what's his
Phone would
name?
fall off.
How did Pinchas Reisitz roll on the floor with the Alter Rebbe at the Hirchsidis and concentrate? If you're at that level, you know how to do these things. Okay.
It's a good child.
Another thing about his prayer, I found that it says that the prayer of Vino Malkeinu is his. It comes from Rabbi Akiva. This phrase we use it hundreds of times in different prayers, but it's a very deep concept. It means that our relationship with Hashem is double. There's the Avinu and Malkeinu simultaneously. We're like servants, but we're also like children. It's not just the words. We found the nice words that rhyme. It's a very, very deep concept, a powerful concept that we use to corner Hashem in the prayer, so to speak, because we're his children and we're his servants, and it affects how you judge and how you give and how you treat, and this term is attributed to Rabbi Akiva. His great refined character. It says in Tainus that he was Mavid al Midaisa. That's one of the greatest character descriptions. It means he's the type that you could attack him and insult him and make fun of him, and he would have very, very good, witty, clever responses that he could say, and he would calmly control himself and be pleasant and humble and not respond to anything. Okay? It's not such a great virtue if you had nothing, no comebacks. You understand? So when you say Mavet al Midaisav, means you just let it slide, you just judge the person, you tell yourself the guy's stressed, having a bad day, he doesn't know, he's going to be sad later when he comes down, and you don't get sucked into the confrontation.
Who was going up to Rabbi Akiva and just dissing him? Who was doing
Well, everything is relative. But it says, it's a good question, it could be, it says even before he became a Torah scholar, he had a very good midah. She saw things in him. Okay, yeah, that's the next thing. Very, very chosen, very rare, like selected character traits. He was snua v'yira shemayim. It says in Ksubas and Eidavin, and a chassid. Snua means he wasn't a shower. He wasn't doing things for others. He wasn't a chitzon, right? The worst name they could offend somebody in Lubavitch was to call them a chitzon, a faker, superficial. You do things for others.
He's the opposite.
Yira shemayim. That means he lived with the reality of being in Hashem's presence, and he was in awe of Hashem all the time. A chassid, and he was a chassid, which in the Talmud always means a student of the Alter Rebbe, right? No, it means he was above and beyond. Above and beyond. Lifnei b'shuras hadin.
Yeah.
Lifnei b'shuras hadin. Yeah. He did more than he had to do, like in everything.
Rabbi, should I burn my nails? When I cut my nails, should I burn them?
Let's wait for after class. If it's not essential to discuss now, let's try to stay on topic because we're already close to the end of our time. Hu Amar, he said as follows. Okay, this is he had such respect. He said he would give his life just to fulfill even the opinions of those he disagreed with. He would take it as serious as his life. That's a pretty strong expression. And they would say Rabbi Akiva, leave Rabbi Akiva out of the conversation. His ways are so pious, it's not for regular people. Okay. The famous story, this story everyone knows, that he would always say, Kol ma David Achman l'tavav. Whatever Hashem does, it's for the good. Should I say the story? Does everybody know it?
I want to hear it.
You know it.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Okay, I got to show on.
What?
I'm the
No, I'm not going to do the story now because I think everyone basically knows it. Let's do this now. Let's finish first. He was married 4 times.
Why?
It's known that he was married once before Rachel, and he had a child, and he tried. It says in Rabbi Nosson, he once tried to go to yeshiva with his son, and it didn't work. He was not successful. It just was nothing going in. He was embarrassed. He was uncomfortable, but he went with his son to learn Alibase together. It's mentioned before the 40 years.
Isn't there a story he sat in like a
Hold on. I want to do fast now, so let's hold all the comments till after the class because we're already at the end of our time slot. His second wife was Rachel, the daughter of Kavasvu we mentioned before. And then there's two women. There was two other women, Almanasai and Gushasai Shaltonis Rufus, which we said before, and someone, a daughter of Yeshua, which we don't know. It's mentioned Yadayim, but we don't know who this is. But this is the story we had before. Either the widow or the divorced noblewoman from that Tonis Rufus from that whole story. Okay, the children we know a little bit about the children. There was Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, famous. Rashi says was the son of Rabbi Akiva, but he was. I heard once that he was in hiding because they killed Rabbi Akiva. They tried to kill the whole family, and he disguised himself by calling himself Karcha. Karcha means the bold, like it's derogatory a little bit, like the son of the old one, the old bold one. But Rabbi Akiva was very old, and maybe he was bold, and maybe it was just this other thing. But they say he was hiding his name. He wasn't by Yeshua ben Akiva. He's never called him Yeshua ben Akiva. Okay, Shimon, who he married off, it says in Yerushalmi, but who died in his lifetime. It's mentioned. There's a daughter, a famous story that was saved. I told you the story already. Also, the wedding day from a snake because of charity, and then the son-in-law was Rabbi Yeshua ben Kafaisai. Ben Azai was also engaged to his daughter. It's a discussion if he actually got married or something happened, but to a different daughter. It's mentioned Ksubis. His politics is famous. This we said by the end of his life, he was involved with the revolt of Bar Kokhba. He said he has the potential to be Mashiach because he was fighting the wars of Hashem of that generation, which was the Romans were not letting people be Jewish. That was the battle for the sake of Hashem and for the sake of Judaism in that time. And he felt that this is what qualifies him as a candidate for Mashiach. The Rambam brings that. He even carried his kalim to symbolically support him. It's mentioned in the Gemara that he once traveled and he returned some of the 10 lost tribes. Some of them were returned by Rabbi Akiva, at least. The famous
artifact that you just showed.
The fox. You know this fox story? They once saw foxes coming out of the ruins of the Beis Hamikdash, and they were all crying, and he smiled because he knew that that means also the good prophecies are going to be fulfilled. Okay, the last thing. This is where it's staying for because I heard such a good word on this that I never heard before. That I'm going to add this. So this is also pretty graphic. Okay, they took him at the end of his life, and they tortured him with Yisudim Neroim. They were combing his flesh off with iron combs. They were skinning him alive. And it says, we read on Yom Kippur very briefly, and it says that even the Roman emperor couldn't believe how he was taking everything. I was handling the pain and the suffering. They were trying to make it unbearable suffering. And students famously asked him, like he was saying the Shema, it was a time for Shema, so he started saying Shema. And they said, Ad Khan, like, you're just saying Shema, like now, like, and what they meant is, really, what is Shema? Declaring Hashem's unity, right? What does it mean to declare Hashem's unity? There's no other little totem gods floating around under hiding somewhere. That's a very immature perspective. What does it mean we say God is one? What we really mean when God is one is that there is no reality, there is no existence independent of God. Everything. So you were saying, they were saying like Ad Khan, even in this, they're torturing you. You feel like it's not a concealment for you. Usually, when people having a bad day, they don't feel so connected to Hashem. A little stubbed their toe, lost some stocks went down, and they're all shaking. And this, he was having the most unspeakable, unbearable tortures, and he's just saying Shema serenely. And they said, Ad Khan, even while you're Shemaing now, you're saying Echad. Even on this, you're saying it's all Hashem for you. You're connecting to Hashem in the pain, in the suffering, in the darkness, like equally. And the story goes, he said he said Echad, and his soul left as he said the word Echad, the last word of the sentence of Shema. And the Paschal announced, Ashrecha Rabbi Akiva, that your soul sheyatza nishmascha be'echad, that your soul departed in this way, like with Echad. with the word while saying this word echad. So this is here's the part that I heard. That's amazing. I always do the story. It's a powerful story. What?
What about it wasn't Rabbi Akiva that she wanted his face?
No, that's someone else. That's Chanina ben Tradian or someone. Or Turgaman or something. Different. What?
Say that story.
Not right now. So I want to tell you this word. So it's amazing. It's powerful. This very special. His Mesiras Nefesh, his Yasa Nishmasa Be'echad. He's the students, everyone. You can imagine the scene. But I heard just now a word. I never heard this before. That the Echad is bringing out something else. Rabbi Akiva was going to. He actually told the students that all my life I yearned to show Hashem that I meant it. I didn't bring that here. And he said, now I shouldn't be excited that I'm able to fulfill it. That was his response to the students. I tell God I love you with all my soul, but now I'm actually able to do it. So you know what the word is? All those times when he would say Shema, you think he did like when he went to the paradise? Why did he came back down and he normalized into the world? Right? Why? Because he strengthened himself from having Kalei Nefesh by saying, Hashem wants me to be in this world, to be normal, to be functioning in this world, and to do a Dibur Tachtonim, to be involved in mitzvahs, right? And every day when he said Shema, he had to control himself, same way like when he went to paradise. Not to have Kalei Nefesh. But now, you think he died from the torture? No. Now he finally, I'm dying anyway, so I don't have to have that self-control. That's what it's saying, that Ashech Rabbi Akiva, he died, he's not even from all the pain and the torture, he died from the effort. He finally was able to just have Kalei Nefesh. He was excited. This time, I can let myself actually have Kalei Nefesh. And in such a state, he's not dying from them. He's dying from his own Kalei Nefesh, not from anything they did to him. He pushed it as the neshama left it. Anyway, that's the one I wanted to share.
Where you get this from?
I just heard it from a class a few days ago, like a week ago.
And where does he bring it from?
I could try to find it. It was a Rabbi YY something, but it was a whole other thing.
Okay. Snake story.
Here's what it
and
says.
Face story.
Hold on. Mishabesh Rabbi Akiva, it says Batal Kavod HaTorah. It says the last page of Saita. Also Mishabesh Rabbi Akiva, the biceps of Torah. But the strength, and the fountains and the wisdom of wisdom were stopped, were closed up. No more. After Rabbi Akiva, there was no one like him. The power of Torah. Also, it says, look what it says. It says, any Mishnah that you see that's anonymous, listen to this. Any Mishnah that you find anywhere in the Shas, Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Stam Tesefta is Rabbi Nehemiah. Stam Sifra is Rabbi Yehuda, but there's no name. Stam Sifri is Rabbi Shimon. Mekulu, I'll leave it to Rabbi Akiva. But all of them are basically following Rabbi Akiva's teachings. So that's what it says in Sanhedrin. This is where he's buried, in Tiberia. It's not so far, it's also in the north, not so far from Meron. This is the place, this is the
Rambams.
Yeah, it's close to the Rambam, exactly. And we have some teachings here, but
That's Rashbi. Oh, no?
what?
Merom is next to Rashbi.
No, it's actually.
Meron is Rashbi.
It's fine.
Where's Rashbi?
And Tveria is close to Meron. It's not far from there. He's buried in Tveria.
So Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi
Anyway, since I advertised you, I did clickbait. I told you the class is good. I subtitled the class 6 Ways to Become Rich. So I'll tell you what Rabbi Akiva taught about wealth. This is what he actually taught, not what he did.
On the eastern border, that's right.
He said, who is truly wealthy? He who has a good wife. And if you listen to the class, you'll know why he said that. Okay, that will be this class.
Who said they're next to each other?
We have